Hi there, lovelies. So I'm coming to you at a time in the day where the sun is breaking through some clouds, and the world is just a different place from the last time I had anything to say to you. So these are strange times, aren't they? There we were running about our lives, and suddenly there was this virus and all sorts of confusing information coming out of different parts of the world. And overnight, the world changed and locked down, and businesses closed. And initially, people were very afraid. Fear was the predominant energy of the world, and many of the empaths I know and consult with really felt the impact of a lot of people clinging to their old way of life, wondering if anything would be the same. And then after a few days, as people got to adjust, and man, humans are very good at adjusting, aren't we? We really can go with the flow. And after a few days of that, of panic and confusion, we settled into a lockdown status where a lot of us were really seeing the blessing of such a strange occurrence. There was suddenly time to contemplate, time to write, time to make art, time to play, and time to really sit with ourselves and ask ourselves some big questions. It was almost like humanity had a time out. Nature returned to a beautiful state. Rivers got clean, the air became breathable again. The entire earth felt like it took a collective breath as people slowed themselves down. And yes, there was stress if you chose to delve into the mass media or the reports coming out of here or there. There was a lot of confusing information. But in general, I think, however it came about, this time of stoppage, this time of lockdown, this time of pause, has really been a gift for a lot of people. And so many in the world that had prayed for or had wished silently that if only I had the time to do this or that. And yes, I could write that book if I just had a few days. And yes, I'd love to spend more time with my family and really bond with this child of mine, but if only I had the time. Well, we had the time, and so for many of us it was a gift. And then there were others that were not so positively impacted, people who had no access to resources outside of a thriving economy, small businesses and individuals who relied on daily activity or daily effort, and a lot of humanity experienced lack and are still experiencing lack. And as we emerge from the set time that we knew was set aside for a lockdown, we started preparing ourselves for an unlocked world again, sure, different, and we knew things would change. And many of us started to research, and we started to look at the world and see the disparity that was coming out. If you are in tune with the essence of your being, if you perform your daily meditations, if you are a mindful person, then you probably know you're a spiritual being having a brief time, a brief adventure here in this plane of existence, in this plane of creation where energy is slowed right down to visible and seemingly tangible matter. So here you are, a spirit being, having a human experience. And this human experience for this time is called Alice or Joe or whoever you are. and you play into life. You dance with shadow and light, and you enjoy this realm of seeming tangible reality as a wonderful learning place where you can learn how to harness the forces and energies of the universe and the laws of creation in a most successful manner. I mean, it's here in this realm of humanity that we can throw a ball against a wall and watch it bounce back and know about cause and effect. And we're better to learn about that than in a realm where things are seen and felt. And it's a brief period. It's a brief time of learning, but so much learning, and learning that can be done in play and fun. And when we're done here, when we've learned the lessons of joy, light, abundance, unity, cause, effect, healing, love that we need, we will have effectively have grown our spiritual arms and legs and stretched our capacity, and all that learning will go with us when we move on to wherever we do. So if you know of yourself if you identify yourself with your spiritual being, then is this world really that important? What happens here? Who's ruling? Who's doing this or that? Is that important? And I think perhaps it is, because we've all experienced by now what it is to manifest here into this realm, and the needing for the necessity of forgetfulness of who we truly are as we are born into these forms and manifest through this life and play into this realm of creation. And we learn and we grow and circle back round to the knowledge, hopefully at some point, of our true spiritual selves. But the experience of this world and what happens here is very real. We really experience on a day-to-day basis the pains and the laughter and the happiness and the sadness, So if not directly for ourselves, and we know we'll move on and everything will be good and we're eternal beings, so we fear nothing as an eternal spiritual being. But if only for those who come after us, I feel most of the people I know would like to ensure that this world is a kinder one, is a more balanced, more nurturing and more nourishing playground for learning about creation than possibly it is today. And in order to get there, in order to get to a world where things are gentler, we must understand that there is a need for change. And change can happen in so many different ways. It can take so many different forms. Over the history of humanity, we've seen mankind shift and change in many different, or at least communities, civilizations of mankind have shifted and changed in so many different ways. And now with the interconnectedness of humanity, of us all being so connected on the internet, social media, now change really happens faster. The momentum of change, the momentum of growth and expansion has really sped up over the last while. So what's really going on out there, lovelies? As you watch, well, you could watch some mainstream media, but there seems to be very little truth there. Governments seem to all be towing the same line. They all seem to be getting their scripts from somewhere else. And then you go to more private voicings. You look at voices that are being listened to across the world, and there are a lot of people that have very interesting things to say about subjects that have been in question for many, many years. And there are a lot of issues. There's the 5G issue, there's the coronavirus issue, there's the issue of vaccines, there's a lot of issues. But often when there's a lot being thrown around, you really need to sit silently and look at the pattern of it all to really uncover what's underneath all of this. So if we look at the growth of humanity from the trees to the caves to the tribes collectively working together, to kingdoms, to might is right, to being ruled by the sword, to being ruled by votes. But yet, even in our seeming democracy, not truly democratic, is it? I mean, we could not, in an area, appoint someone that we believe would make a good representative or a collective. Let's say we all looked around and said, you know, in our little area, in our little group of 1,000 people, we believe that these 5 people would represent us very well. And if those 5 people came together with all the other 5 people from all the other areas, and you know, they appointed somebody and there are other ways, there are other systems of governance that we could employ where we would have a more direct voice. But that seems to be what the issue is right now. What seems to be highlighted through censorship is that there is someone out there that feels that it is their right or responsibility to determine what we're allowed to see and hear. And then there's another group of people over there that feel it's their right or responsibility to determine what clothing or what apparel we should or should not be wearing. And then there's another group of people out there that are saying that it's their right or responsibility to determine what we should or should not be doing with our days. And there's another group of people over there saying that it's their right or responsibility to determine what we should put in our bodies. And if you look at the growth of humanity to now, we still have a large number of people in the world who will take a medication from somebody in a white coat without questioning. There are still a lot of people in the world who will buy a product because they like the model who appears in the advert. So do we have a humanity that is mature enough to make decisions based on research, based on sifting and sorting of what's true, and make good decisions for themselves, their loved ones, and their world? Or are we still immature? And the good analogy here is children. You know, humanity as a whole was once an infant. Now it feels like we're heading for our 18th birthday, where we have been given certain limited authority, and our rights as an individual have been acknowledged, but only to a certain point. And now we're ready to take the car keys and head off into our own autonomy. We're ready to say, thank you. I will determine what happens in my body. I will make choices for myself and my loved ones and my world. And at a point of maturity, humanity can be trusted to do that. At a certain point of maturity, adult human beings should individually be able to be trusted with doing the best thing for themselves, their loved ones, and their world without huge enforcement. And yet, it feels like the powers that be, wherever they are grasping onto the last part of their power and trying desperately to steer us in one or other direction, either by force or by getting us to consent to the steering. And that's going to make for an interesting showdown, as much of humanity will stand up and say, no, I trust myself to make good decisions for myself and my loved ones and my world. and nobody else's choices are going to take preference over my own choices for myself. And if enough of us do that, then the world will shift again, and we will see a freer, more empowered world where human beings will be able to participate in their own governance. So as always, out of chaos comes beauty, and there will be a beautiful outcome for this, but it may take some time. But I think we're all looking in the wrong places for what's really going on. This is not a war against a virus. This is not a battle with a little infinitesimal microscopic particle. This is a stage that has shone a light on just how much autonomy mankind now wants over their world, and really also how much autonomy we deserve over our world. We were given a token sense of autonomy through our democratic processes, which really in truth aren't democratic at all. If anyone had said to you a few months ago that you were living within a system that could order you to go home and allow your business to fail, would you have believed that? And it took a microscopic particle to get us there. So the real question is not what do we do with the virus. There's a lot of information out there, and the data is growing. The real question is, how much autonomy, how much authority do we want over our lives? And do you think we can trust mankind yet to make the best decisions overall for themselves, their loved ones, and their world? And I think it's going to be an exciting time as we find that out. So I don't think there's anything to fear here. I think fear is the worst place we can go to. Fear is what makes mankind behave like fearful sheep. Fear is definitely not our best state. As mankind, we respond in fear badly. What we really need now is hope. We need hope that there are enough people on the planet, awakened, conscious, mindful, and that these people will keep their focus and their attention on a better world emerging from this. A world where people can work from home and therefore move back to the countryside. Oh, what a pleasure is that? That'll be a beautiful outcome. If people can establish online businesses en masse and through those businesses go and live in the country, what a wonderful outcome that would be. What a drop in pollution that would cause. That would be magnificent. There are so many positive outcomes that will come from this. But the big question we all need to be asking is there a structure of governance anywhere in the world that really serves a mature mankind? Are we there yet? Do we need new systems? And do we need new systems that work together more closely? Because really, mankind is now one global being. We are one. A virus, a microscopic organism in one place can affect the whole world. We need global restrictions on tampering with viruses, on tampering with dangerous substances. We need global restrictions on people censoring truth. We need everyone to stand together and say, as mankind, this is where we are, and this is what we want going forward. This is what we want. This is what we want. That's where the focus needs to be. Not these are the things we do not want, because that just gives more attention and more focus to what's wrong in the world, and that empowers what's wrong. What we really need is, this is what I want, and this is what we want, and globally this is what we want. So our hope is that in the next while we'll see some global platforms coming out where people who are as citizens of the world can start to generate a voice, can start to say, this is what we want. We want a Truth and Reconciliation Commission for the planet. We want more meaningful autonomy in our communities. Of course, nobody should be allowed to do anything against anyone else's human rights. But do we still need to be led like children? Or have we grown up enough now where we can be trusted to learn and to research and to make good decisions for ourselves and our loved ones and our world? And I believe that's what's truly going on here, is the autonomy of mankind is being challenged. And the two major questions arising are, is mankind mature enough to take an active role in their own governance? And if not, who is going to govern? And then we're back on the same old path of not so democratic elections and not so democratically chosen people. But if we are mature enough, then we need new systems. We need new systems of governance. We need new systems of making our own voices heard. Challenging times ahead, but we can all face them if we know our own power and we know that we create our own reality through our thoughts. Let's focus on the positive things that will come out of this. We can all move to the countryside. Isn't that a pleasure? As humankind, we've really witnessed beauty in humanity. Isn't that great? And I'm sure that many of us know our neighbors better now. Let's focus on the positives and let's start asking, let's start finding the real questions, not spend too much time worrying about the others, but really start focusing our attention on what this time is highlighting as the real questions facing mankind right now. As always, sending love wherever it's needed. This is Alice.